Did your parents ever threaten you with something that would make modern mums and dads faint on the spot? Back in 1960s and 70s Britain, discipline wasn't exactly gentle. From chilly punishments to creatively embarrassing consequences, kids grew up learning right from wrong the hard way. Some methods were firm but fair. Others feel downright unbelievable today. Here are 15 old-school British punishments that will make you say, "Blimey, they really did that." There was always that one mysterious figure whispered about after bedtime. Grandparents spoke of him as though they'd seen him loitering on the landing, and parents repeated the tale with just enough seriousness to make your blood run cold. The Bogeyman was not a cartoonish monster. He was whoever your imagination conjured when the lights went out. The message was clear. Behave or he might come looking. Many children in the 60s and 70s Britain were raised on these eerie warnings. Parents did not need to shout. A quiet mention of the Bogeyman was enough to send a child scrambling beneath the blanket. Even the most confident would lie stiff as a board, praying not to hear footsteps. Whether he lived under the bed, behind the wardrobe, or at the bottom of the stairs varied from house to house. Every family seemed to have their own version. Some said he only appeared when children lied. Others swore he took those who wandered off alone. It sounds absurdly dramatic today, yet the psychological impact was undeniable. Kids behaved because fear shaped their imaginations long before reason could enter the room. Bedtime was not a cozy event. It was a test of bravery. Parents used the legend to reinforce rules without lifting a finger. As a tool of discipline, it worked almost too well. Many grown adults still remember the trembling, the long nights staring into the dark, and the relief of waking up safe in the morning. Picture a child caught misbehaving, only to hear the chilling words, "Shall I call the police then?" In the 60s and 70s Britain, this simple threat could stop a youngster mid-stride. It hardly mattered whether a police visit was likely. The image of a stern officer at the door, notebook ready, was enough to make most children behave. Parents also invoked strict teachers, fearsome headmasters, or even the local vicar, knowing these figures commanded instant respect. The tactic worked because authority truly carried weight. Teachers were firm, headmasters seemed untouchable, and police officers were viewed with unquestioned seriousness. A single mention of reporting misbehaviour made a child's stomach twist. They imagined consequences that stretched far beyond the household and feared the shame of being told off by someone important. Voices softened, tempers settled, and children often apologised at once. This method relied on fear wrapped in respect. Parents seldom needed to shout. The mere possibility of official disapproval brought swift obedience. Some believe it taught accountability. Others say it created needless anxiety. Either way, it became a memorable thread in the fabric of childhood during that era. There is something uniquely punishing about being sent to your room while life continues downstairs. In the 60s and 70s Britain, bedroom isolation was a favourite parental tool. A child would be guided to their room with a stern reminder to think about what they had done. No entertainment, no company, only stillness and the weight of guilt. The door might stay open, yet the message was firm. You stayed put. Unlike today, bedrooms were not havens of distraction. They were plain, practical spaces without televisions or gadgets. Left alone, minutes stretched painfully. Children listened to the clatter of pots, the faint sound of the telly, and the occasional laugh drifting from below. The world carried on without them, which was precisely the point. The punishment lived in the feeling of exclusion rather than physical discomfort. Parents believed silence encouraged reflection. Whether true or not, children certainly rehearsed apologies and promises to behave. When released, they returned quiet and eager to rejoin the household. Bedroom isolation left no physical marks, yet its emotional sting lasted, teaching that misbehaviour meant separation. It remains one of the most quietly memorable punishments of the era. If you grew up in Britain during the 60s or 70s, you might remember a sharp tug on your ear or a swift pull of your fringe. It was fast, surprising, and used when words failed. Parents relied on it to stop misbehaviour instantly. The shock made children fall silent, and it was over before they could protest. No lecture, just a quick pinch that said enough. The pain was brief but powerful. A child who wandered in a shop or answered back could receive an instant twist of the ear. Some teachers were known for hair pulling, lifting the scalp just enough to make eyes water. Adults saw it as swift correction rather than cruelty. The thinking was simple. A short sting now prevented bigger trouble later. Though mild compared with other punishments, it carried weight. Children quickly learned who might use it and tread carefully. At home, a single look could act as warning. Today, such discipline would spark outrage, yet back then it seemed normal. Many who felt it still remember the sting, sometimes even with a wry smile. Accidents were not always met with kindness. A child who spilled milk or wet the bed could receive sharp words instead of comfort. In many British homes of the 60s and 70s, embarrassment was considered corrective. A pointed remark in front of siblings made a child shrink. Some were made to clean up the mess themselves, taught that responsibility began immediately. Bedwetting was especially sensitive. Rather than understanding, some children were scolded or teased. Sheets might be hung outside where neighbours could see, driven by the belief that shame encouraged better control. The stress was heavy. Children lay awake, fearful of failing again. Even small mishaps attracted teasing. Breaking a plate or tripping in public brought laughter rather than reassurance. Parents thought it built resilience, yet it often chipped away at confidence. Many recall the heat of humiliation and the promise never to slip again. Some believe it strengthened them, while others remember only fear of mistakes. Nothing jolted a child quite like icy water. In the 60s and 70s Britain, some parents believed a freezing rinse could shock mischief straight out of a youngster. A child who talked back or threw a tantrum might be marched to the bathroom, the cold tap turned on full. It wasn't meant to injure, just to make consequences sudden and unforgettable. Once the water hit, there was no sympathy. Children shivered, teeth chattering as they waited for it to end. The whole experience was miserable, leaving them fragile and quiet afterward. Word spread among school friends, and even those who never faced it feared the possibility. Looking back, many adults are stunned this was ever considered discipline. Yet it often worked, interrupting anger in an instant. Shock replaced stubbornness, and parents felt it reset behaviour. Though few would try it today, the memory lingers. The chill faded in minutes, but its lesson lasted far longer. There was something quietly soul-crushing about being told to sit and write the same sentence, again and again. In the 60s and 70s, Britain, writing lines turned mischief into a long, tedious evening. A child might scrawl "I must not answer" back hundreds of times, the repetition wearing down defiance. It was neither loud nor dramatic, just dull and seemingly endless. School children dreaded it most. Teachers handed out scrap paper and a sentence that matched the offence. Talk too much and you wrote about keeping quiet. Arrive late and you apologised in ink. The punishment lay not in the words but the time they stole. While friends played outside, the offender hunched over a desk, hand aching. Some parents preferred this calm discipline at home. Instead of shouting, they simply slid paper forward. Forced reflection followed. Years later, adults still remember the scratch of pen on paper and the relief when finally allowed to stop. No punishment stung quite like embarrassment in front of others. In the 60s and 70s Britain, parents weren't afraid to call out bad behaviour while neighbours watched. A telling off on the pavement or outside the grocer's felt devastating. Faces turned red, hearts sank, and for days children worried about who had seen. Family reputation mattered, so misbehaviour brought more than private trouble. In tight neighbourhoods, news travelled fast. If a child was scolded on the street, everyone knew by evening. Parents sometimes exaggerated to make sure the lesson stuck. A cheeky child might even be teased by other adults, and hiding was impossible. Adults believed public embarrassment kept children accountable and reminded them their actions affected the family name. Even smaller forms of shaming stayed with them. Being told to apologize in front of others was mortifying. The embarrassment often cut deeper than physical punishment. Years later, the memory of standing before watchful eyes still lingers. Sometimes the most effective punishment looked like ordinary housework. In the 60s and 70s Britain, extra chores were a common consequence for mischief. A child who answered back might end up scrubbing the kitchen floor, while another could be sent to weed the garden. These tasks were slow and dull, leaving many wishing they had behaved. The list seemed endless. Washing dishes, polishing shoes, raking leaves, and cleaning windows could appear at any moment. Parents believed hard work built character and kept children out of further trouble. Under watchful eyes, chores became lessons in responsibility. Children soon learned that mess or disobedience meant more scrubbing. Though tiring, it felt fair. No one was hurt, only worn out, and the house usually sparkled. Many remember washing the family car repeatedly, laughing at it years later. The routine created discipline and appreciation for effort, teaching that poor choices invited hard work. Silence can be louder than shouting. In the 60s and 70s, British parents often sat a misbehaving child on a hallway step or in a quiet corner. Time dragged while the rest of the house carried on. Every sound felt distant. The aim was simple: think about what you have done. There were no toys or conversation, only stillness until permission came. Children stared at the wallpaper, bored and regretful. Parents believed solitude calmed tempers. Misbehaviour quickly lost its thrill. Soon apologies came softly, and the step became a quiet symbol of consequence. Some children saw it as gentle, others hated being singled out, especially when laughter echoed from elsewhere. Yet it worked because it paused chaos. Children returned calmer and more willing to listen. With no pain, only reflection, it remains one of the few techniques to survive changing attitudes, teaching patience and self-control. There was nothing quite as dreadful as hearing those words. A quiet household suddenly felt full of tension. The entire afternoon became a countdown, each minute heavier than the last. Children would tiptoe around the house, hoping the offence might be forgotten. Fathers were often viewed as the firmer hand in the 60s and 70s Britain. When he walked through the door, the atmosphere shifted. A look or raised eyebrow was enough to make a child tremble. Mothers used the phrase sparingly, knowing its impact. No immediate punishment was needed. The anticipation alone corrected behaviour. By the time Dad arrived, many children were already tearful, rehearsing apologies. Sometimes nothing happened at all. The threat alone did the job. It was a psychological lesson rather than a physical one. Those who lived through it remember pacing hallways and listening for footsteps, promising themselves they would never misbehave again. Few things stung more than losing your weekly coins. Pocket money in the 60s and 70s was a symbol of freedom. Whether spent on sweets or saved for a small treasure, it meant independence. Once taken away, it felt as though the week had lost its colour. Parents saw this as a balanced consequence. There was no shouting or drama, just a quiet announcement that this week's coins would not be given. The punishment affected every small desire. Children watched friends buy treats while they stood empty-handed. Lessons in patience came quickly. Though simple, it encouraged responsibility. Many children began budgeting and improving behaviour to protect their allowance. Adults now recall counting pennies and promising to do better. It was not cruel, only inconvenient, and that was the point. A small reminder that choices had consequences. There is nothing more frustrating to a child than watching others play outside while being stuck at home. Grounding took away the greatest treasure of childhood: freedom. British kids of the 60s and 70s quickly learned that mischief meant staying indoors. Parents enforced it by keeping children within sight. No park, no friends, no corner shop. The house, once familiar, became a cage. Children lingered by windows, listening to laughter beyond the glass. Each hour passed slowly, filled with boredom and regret. Despite the misery, grounding worked. The fear of missing out was powerful. Children behaved to avoid another weekend indoors. This punishment left no marks and rarely needed repeating. Those who experienced it still remember pressing their faces to the window, wishing the rules would change. There was an unmistakable disappointment when a child was told they would not eat that evening. Supper was more than food. It was warmth, routine, and family time. To miss it felt deeply personal. Parents believed hunger created reflection. While everyone else gathered at the table, the child sat quietly elsewhere. The smell of food travelled through the house, a reminder of what had been lost. Children promised to behave better, not wanting to repeat the experience. Looking back, many remember this punishment vividly. It was short, simple, and effective. Once emotions cooled, normality returned. A single missed meal was enough to make most children think twice. For many children in the 60s and 70s, Britain's smacking was considered ordinary. A quick strike to the hand or bottom signalled that a line had been crossed. The action was swift, and life moved on. Parents rarely discussed it. They believed a sharp sting corrected behaviour faster than long conversations. Children learned boundaries early. The discipline was immediate, and so was forgiveness. Most adults saw it as firm guidance rather than cruelty. Today, attitudes have changed, yet memories remain. Many recall the sound more than the feeling, a sharp snap followed by silence. It was a defining feature of the era, shaping generations who still debate its impact. And that brings us to the end of our look at the unbelievable ways British parents kept their children in line during the 60s and 70s. If any of these memories took you back to your own childhood, or reminded you of stories passed around the family table, be sure to give the video a like and subscribe for more nostalgic trips into the past. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.